August 14th, 2003. At 3:14 a.m., a 17-year-old pressed enter. The lights went out from Ohio to New York. He was sitting in his boxers drinking flat soda. One command, one typo, one server he was never supposed to find. His phone died. The street outside went black. He heard his dad yell from the living room, "What the hell happened to the TV?" The kid didn't answer. He couldn't, because in that moment, 55 million people lost power. Airports shut down. Subways stalled underground. A hospital in Cleveland ran on backup generators for 12 hours. And the teenager who caused it all didn't even know what a grid was. He was just looking for game cheats. It started like any other Tuesday night. The kid, let's call him Mike, had just lost a multiplayer match. Badly. He was bored, angry at his laggy connection, and looking for an edge. His laptop was a relic, a hand-me-down Dell running Windows XP, the kind of machine that overheated if you watched 2 YouTube videos at once. But it had one thing going for it. An old network scanner he'd downloaded from a hacker forum a year ago, just for fun. At 2:47 a.m., Mike ran the scanner across a range of IP addresses. He wasn't looking for anything specific, just open ports, just seeing what was out there. Most came back closed. A few showed web servers. And then, one address responded with something unusual. A login screen. No company logo, just a gray box asking for a username and password. The domain name looked like a jumble of letters and numbers, but a quick whois lookup told him the truth. This server belonged to a regional energy cooperative in the Midwest, a utility you've never heard of, but one that helped balance power across half a dozen states. Mike didn't panic. He didn't even realize what he'd found. He tried admin/admin. Nothing. Root/root. Nothing. Then he tried the default password from the scanner's built-in list. 47th attempt. Energy 2020. The screen changed. He was in. Inside, there were no flashy dashboards or warnings, just text menus and cryptic labels. CB142 status. Load shed zone 4. SCADA link health. Mike didn't know what SCADA meant. He didn't know that these menus controlled circuit breakers. He thought he'd found an old weather monitoring system. At 3:10 a.m., he typed a command he'd seen in a YouTube tutorial. Show grid status. But he mistyped it. Instead of show, he typed shut. The system didn't ask for confirmation. It didn't say, "Are you sure?" It just executed. And 1,200 miles away, the first substation went offline. The SCADA vulnerability. Say that name 3 times. SCADA. It stands for Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition. In plain English, the software that runs the power grid, the water pumps, the pipelines. Most of it was protected by passwords you'd guess in under a minute. Mike didn't hack the grid. He walked into it. The Energy Cooperative SCADA interface was never meant to be on the public internet, but someone, years ago, had set up a remote access point for a contractor and never turned it off. No firewall, no VPN, no login attempt limits. Just an open door, painted gray, hidden in plain sight. Here's the detail that should terrify you. The default password was Energy2020. That's not a typo. That's what the vendor shipped, and the utility never changed it. When Mike got in, he saw a menu labeled Circuit Breaker Control. Each breaker had a simple status, open or closed. And next to each, a button. No 2-factor authentication, no confirm shutdown. Just click, or in Mike's case, a mistyped command. He didn't click one breaker, he accidentally issued a broadcast command. A command that told every breaker in the system to interpret shut as open. And because the SCADA software was built on an old protocol called DNP3, designed in 1993 before anyone worried about teenagers, it didn't check for authority. It just obeyed. Within 12 seconds, 247 circuit breakers tripped open across 11 states. Power stopped flowing. Generators spun without load. Frequency dropped like a rock. And the grid did what it was designed to do. It shed load by shutting down entire regions. The engineers had planned for a lightning strike or a fallen tree. They never planned for a kid in Ohio typing "shut" instead of "show." That forgotten test interface was the single point of failure nobody saw coming, and it was left wide open for years, waiting for someone curious enough to knock. 3:14 a.m. Mike's screen flashed red, then his laptop died. Not crashed, died. The battery was fine. The lights in his room went out. He didn't know it yet, but 55 million people just lost power. The first substation tripped at 3:14:03. By 3:14:11, 7 more followed. Then the cascade began. Power from a hydro plant in upstate New York tried to reroute. The lines overloaded. Safety systems triggered automatic shutdowns. One failure fed the next. Within 47 seconds, 3 nuclear plants initiated emergency scram protocols. Rods slammed into reactors, steam vents opened to the sky. In Cleveland, a hospital switched to diesel generators. The backup lights flickered but held. In Detroit, subway trains stopped between stations. Riders sat in darkness for 90 minutes. In New York City, traffic lights died at 100 intersections simultaneously. Crashes piled up before police could respond. The Eastern Interconnection, one of the largest power grids on Earth, had fractured into isolated islands. At 3:15 a.m., the system operator in Pittsburgh got an error message. Communications lost with 11 balancing authorities. He thought it was a glitch. It wasn't. And the teenager who caused it all? Mike was sitting in the dark, pressing his laptop's power button over and over. He didn't hear the sirens blocks away. He didn't see the news. He just wondered why his Wi-Fi wasn't working. The screen turned red, then black. Mike sat frozen, fingers still hovering over the enter key. What did I just do? He pressed the power button. Nothing. Plugged in the charger. Nothing. His laptop was dead. The room was dead. Even the little green light on his router had vanished. Then he heard it. A crash from downstairs, his dad's voice, sharp and confused. "Mike, the whole block is dark. Did you blow a fuse?" Mike opened his mouth. No words came. He reached for his phone. No signal. No bars. No emergency calls. Cell towers don't work without power either. His hands started shaking, not from cold, from something worse. He thought, I broke something big. But he didn't know how big, not yet. Minutes later, his dad came up the stairs with a flashlight. "Every street is black," his dad said. "Even the traffic lights. People are yelling outside." Mike looked at his laptop, looked at his phone, looked at the window where the city skyline should glow. There was nothing, just stars. Stars he'd never seen before because the lights had never been off. His stomach dropped. He wanted to tell his dad the truth, but how do you say, "I think I turned off a city," when you don't even understand how? He just sat there in the dark, heart pounding, waiting for someone to knock on the door. No one came. Not yet. But in his gut, he knew this wasn't going away. You're thinking it. I know you are. No way a teenager took down the grid. That's conspiracy theory stuff. The grid has redundancies, backup systems, fail-safes. You're right, it does. Lightning strikes a transformer, backup kicks in. A tree falls on a line, reroute power. A generator trips, others compensate. Engineers designed the Eastern Interconnection to survive just about anything, except one thing. They never designed it to trust a teenager. Here's the part the power company didn't want you to hear. The SCADA system had no authentication for broadcast commands. None. Why? Because the people who built it assumed only trained operators would ever touch it. They assumed the interface would stay locked inside a control room with badge access and armed guards. No one assumed a kid in Ohio would find the back door. So when Mike typed "shut" and hit enter, the system didn't ask, "Who is this?" It didn't say, "Confirm with a second operator." It just obeyed. Because the software was written in an era when the internet was a library, not a weapon. Still skeptical? Ask yourself this. If the grid was so bulletproof, why did 11 states go dark? Why did the official investigation report admit that a single unauthorized remote command triggered the cascade? Why did the utility settle with regulators for $27 million instead of fighting in court? The grid is strong, but it's not smart. And sometimes, strong isn't enough against stupid. 3:14 a.m. That's when he pressed enter. By 3:30 a.m., the first news vans were already circling the federal building in Pittsburgh. By 4 a.m., the governor of Ohio declared a state of emergency. By sunrise, the term cyber attack was on every morning show. No one mentioned a teenager. No one even suspected one. The FBI spent 48 hours chasing a phantom, a foreign adversary, a terrorist cell, a disgruntled former employee. They combed through server logs. They traced IP addresses through proxy chains. They found nothing but confusion. And Mike? Mike sat through 2 full days of darkness. His school closed. His mom boiled water on a camping stove. He helped neighbors move spoiled food out of freezers. He lied to his friends about why he looked so tired. Every time a siren passed, his chest tightened. Every time his dad asked, "You okay, son?" he nodded and looked away. He was waiting for the knock. That knock, the one that would end everything. At 3:14 a.m. on the third day, exactly 72 hours after he pressed enter, the lights flickered back on. Mike stood at his bedroom window and watched streetlights glow one by one. His phone buzzed with 47 missed messages. The first one from his friend. "Dude, we're back! Finally!" Mike didn't reply. He just stared at his laptop, still dead, still sitting on his desk. He wanted to smash it. He wanted to hide it. Instead, he slid it under his bed and lay down. The knock came 4 hours later. Not at 3:14 a.m., at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. 2 men in dark suits, badges on their belts. His mom answered the door in her bathrobe. "Is your son home?" Mike heard the words from upstairs. His legs went numb. He looked at the window. The lights were still on. But for him, the darkness was just beginning. Here's what they don't tell you in the official report. The blackout wasn't terrorism. It wasn't sabotage. It wasn't even a hack. It was a forgotten password, an unlocked door, a teenager who typed "shut" instead of "show." The grid that powers your home, your hospital, your phone, it's held together by trust. Trust that default passwords get changed. Trust that no one finds the back door. Trust that curiosity stops at the login screen. Mike wasn't a genius. He wasn't a criminal. He was bored at 3 a.m. and pressed enter. The engineers who designed SCADA never imagined a kid with a laptop. They planned for lightning, ice storms, equipment failure. They never planned for human nature. So here's the takeaway. The most fragile parts of our world aren't guarded by walls or weapons. They're guarded by someone's memory of a password they forgot to change years ago. Mike walked free. No jail time, no felony. But he still flinches when he hears a knock at the door. He still checks his laptop before bed. The lights came back on. His life didn't. You just watched a teenager accidentally shut off the lights for 55 million people. One typo, one unlocked server, one password nobody bothered to change. And here's the part that should keep you up tonight. The same vulnerabilities are still out there, right now. SCADA systems running water plants, gas pipelines, even hospital backup generators. Many still use default passwords. Many are still exposed to the open internet. Mike got lucky. No prison, no record, just a lifetime of nightmares. But what happens next time? What happens when the person knocking on that open door isn't bored, but dangerous? You want to see the proof? The actual FBI affidavit that let Mike walk free? Or maybe you want to know how you can check if your own city's critical systems are exposed.